number 1, Chris Melling to break first.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 3, the final day and finals day of event 4 of the Supreme Pool Series. This is the Central Vehicle Leasing UK Challenge. Chris Melling wins the lag in this game against Neil Raybone. This is a last 16 match. And unusually for Chris, when I say unusually, he goes dry. And I know it's the first frame, so unusually is an odd thing to say, but we saw him in action a couple of times yesterday, and he was very, very successful with his break. And you feel that the break will play an important part in this match. Neil Raybone, number 1 seeded player on the IPA Tour, one of the most consistent players in the country over the last couple of years. So both of these players will be quite recognisable to the folks at home. Neil Raybone is local to this area, local lad. And there's 2 local lads still deep in the tournament. Adam Davis, of course, is also playing. Neil. I still feel that for all of his achievements, in some ways he's still underrated. We mentioned Adam Davis yesterday, and the fact that when people are talking about their favourite for the event and the likely winner, he's never there. And indeed, the bookie overlooked Neil. He was 22 to 1, and nowhere near amongst the favourites before the off. He was my pick for the event before it even started. So consistent, and he's in good touch, good form at the moment, and this will be a really, really tough challenge for Chris. But equally, Chris will prove a big challenge for anybody. I mean, Chris, we saw him yesterday just blowing people off of the table. It was quite frightening how good he was. Back to his brilliant best, and it's just the question really over that consistency and whether he's going to turn up with that same level of form today. It will remain to be seen. All he's done so far is dry break, so we've not had a chance to see him. Early frames for Darren McVicker and Craig Marsh. That's the full lineup for the last 16 that you can see. You'll see a contrast in styles between the breaks. You'll see Neil using a break cue, a much more compact cue ball straight down the middle, cueing straight through the middle of the ball, trying to pull it back up the centre of the table. You could tell he didn't time it because the cue ball he lost just to the left-hand rail. So the timing wasn't quite there, and ultimately it's cost him, and it's a dry break. collecting yellows. The two balls to the right hand side of the table are covering each other. I wonder if he's going to have to try and move them, or whether the left one of the two he can get to the potting angle. From here it doesn't look like he can, but he can get behind them and take them to left centre, but of course he needs to move that ball over left centre to be able to do that. So we'll find out now whether it goes. Well, he's looking at the potting angle, so it clearly does. He doesn't want to take it from where he is now. You can see where he's cueing, where he wants the cue ball to be, and the reason for that is that if he takes it now, he's going to be pushing the other yellow towards the rail. So he wants to play it clean without nudging the other yellow. Any contact with the other yellow could push it safe. There you go, brilliant. And that's just really clever thinking. Just knowing that any contact with that yellow could have been trouble. His pattern play is just second to none. And if there was any question over which Chris Melling was going to turn up, well, he's put that to bed right here. In another minute's worth of excellence. What a player. These two will go toe to toe. Be very, very interesting to see the outcome. This for me is one of the best games of the event so far. Central Vehicle Leasing are the title sponsor for this event, and you can see some of the cards that they offer, and really good deals as well. Now, what Chris is doing here, he's not trying to catch the the ref out. He is just looking to see if there's any tiny gaps in there, and if there's a gap that he doesn't like, then he'll ask the ref to touch the ball in, and if there's a gap that he likes, that he thinks would be to his advantage, and that very much comes from American pool, and he talked us through that a little bit in the masterclass that he did with us yesterday, that we will be showing in the grand final. That some of the gaps, you can have gaps between the balls that are going to give you an advantage on your break, and you can have gaps that are going to give you a disadvantage. And when I say gaps, I mean I'm talking about hairlines. There are balls within the cluster that transfer the power through to the back, and those are the balls that are important to have touching. It's very much about the mechanics of the break, and he's a wonderful exponent of it, and it really only comes from the fact that he's played in America, because the Americans study the break. I think personally that we in the UK take the break too lightly, especially now we have this shark rack which gives you a consistent setup every time. I think people think it's just a question of slapping the front ball, getting your timing right and hitting it on the sweet spot as hard as you can, but there's so much more to it. And so far it's just a game of dry breaks. probably just a shade more angle than ideal. He would have liked to be straight and he could just stop this dead for the one in the middle. As it is, yeah, that was always going to be the problem. He was tracking towards that red and he had to play into it. He had too much angle, and that was just his positional shot on the shot before. He just ran out of position slightly. As I say, if he was dead straight, he could have just played 3 stop shots and it would have been the simplest of clearances. And now he's left with a pretty horrible cut down the rail with hampered queuing. I mean, if this isn't difficult enough anyway, that you've got to jack up over the yellow, this is a bit smelly. Look at this. What a shot that is. I cannot stress how difficult that is. And we saw these flare shots, but to play over that ball hampered and pop that down the rail, and he absolutely nailed it. And that was a little bit tricky too. That really is a top class clearance from Neil Raybone. So both players trading punches, 3 reverse dishes so far. Look at that for a shot. I mean, it was never in doubt. That's so difficult with hampered queuing. Look at Craig Waddingham, 2-0 up against Phil Harrison. Craig on a rich vein of form at the moment. Some people's tip for the event. Who do you guys at home fancy now? Those are your last 16. Who are you picking? Who's your pick of the bunch? Craig Marsh, 3-0 up against Dave Fernandez. Both of those guys would have had a late night last night. That's a battle of the hangovers, I reckon. So finally, we have a ball off of the break. But look what he's left with. Grim. So basically, Neil's just laying the gauntlet down and saying, I don't fancy the yellows. You have a crack at them, and if you get them, fair play. And if you don't, I'm having the reds. It's a brave move against someone who's playing as well as Chris. Let's just come out a little further than he wanted. forced it round off 2 cushions. And he couldn't have placed that better by hand. Now, a little, well, I was going to say a little stop shot. He obviously felt that he was better off trying to move it rather than try and land on the one above. He'd already looked at the one above to see if it went. Now, I think he has to play this long. Well, he's looking now at dropping it in the middle and where he's going to be with the cue ball. Personally, I think he's good enough. If he pots this long and just rolls the cue ball through 4 or 5 inches, he's going to have a straight yellow back up the rail. And you fancy him to get this long. I think that's a better percentage than trying to drop this in the middle and then take that one from a wide angle. And indeed, that's the shot he's going to play. I called one right. He was looking at, see, he would have had to take this yellow from somewhere just below the black, on the line of the black, and that would have just been horrible. I think far better percentage playing it the way he played it. And that's another nice clearance. Nothing between these two players. Can't get a fag paper between them. McVicker chippy 2 each. Shane Thompson 2-0 on Gaz Hibbert. Shane is on fire this weekend. Craig Wardingham 2-1. Adam Davis 2-1. Mark Ball, Clint Anson 1 apiece. Incidentally, Shane Thompson played Declan last night in the winners' qualification match. If you haven't seen the end of that game, the frame that he made, the clearance, I mean, basically I saw Declan upstairs and he said, I cannot believe it. He said, I was 9-8 up. He said, I've let him go. I've let him at the table. I've left it safe, perfectly safe. And he starts going for it. He starts going for the clearance. And I thought to myself, well, I'm happy because if someone had asked me for odds, he said, I've happily given him 100,000 to 1. He said he could not make the clearance. Absolutely impossible. And then all of a sudden, he's made the clearance. He said, if you, yeah, honestly, he said, I would have literally lost money, a fortune, because he couldn't make the clearance. I mean, it was a ridiculous clearance. But then, the clearance that he makes to win the match at 10 frames each, the last 2 shots, a couple of them, well, the last 3 shots, yeah, 3 of the most ridiculous shots you're ever going to see. That's on YouTube. You can go across and watch it if you want to watch what I'm talking about. If you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It was crazy. If you do nothing else, just go and watch the last couple minutes of that frame. He takes his time over the shots, so you'll need to fast forward between them. Black's in, but bears no relevance. The black simply comes out of the pocket. Referee Sam Sprackman, up from the West Country, doing a great job. And for those of you who want to improve your break, Chris Melling is probably one of the players that you should be basing your break on. I mean, the guy times the ball and gets the power through his shot. All the power is coming from the body. And you look at that cue ball, most people are screwing it back up the table and then coming back down. It's in danger of getting kicked off. It's in danger of going in off. Chris Smelling, you'll see him smash into that front ball, and the cue ball will generally, the spin on the ball will accelerate and it will stop it mid-table, which is pretty much the perfect break. For me, I mean, people talk about Tom Cousins' break, and Tom's break is massive, and it's a thing to behold. But I think for control and power, I think Chris has got the best break in the world. We'll watch it another couple of times so you can kind of have a better look at the mechanics of it. He said all the power is coming from his legs, leaning into the ball, getting the transference of power through his shoulder and his elbow. That long cueing action really helps him to generate the power. And he was breaking some breaks for us yesterday, basically as hard as he could. And it was like he was dropping shells. This really is something special. Three frames to two. Neil recognises and taps his leg. Nothing he can do. All he can do is do what he's doing. Take advantage of every opportunity he gets.
Frame number 6, Neil Raybone to break, trailing 3 frames to 2, time running.
Now you see the difference between the two breaks. Neil plays it with screw, and he's going to screw the cue ball straight back at the table. Well, actually, that cue ball was trying to stop, and then it got kicked. And that was a really, really well-timed break. Very nice. Got kicked away, but it would have stopped in virtually the same place that Chris has stopped in a second ago. I mean, the break, as I say, people just underrate it as a shot. It's the most important shot in the game of pool, because it dictates whether you keep control or you relinquish control of the table. And if your break's going, it's much easier to win. If your break's not working, if your break's going dry, it's one of the hardest things in the world to win. We've seen massive money matches won and lost on the break, where it's just dried up for people. Perfect little angle just to run through. Cue ball into the gap just below the black. Touch hard. A touch hard. Not quite sure why he came down so low. I mean, I guess it was one of those that it's better to be low than it is to be high. If he's high, then he's got no chance of getting on the black with the yellow where it is. So he was trying to make sure that he went low, but in doing so, he's just cost himself a little bit of position. And what does he do here? Yeah, I don't think he can hold. I mean, he may be able to hold something like what would be the brown spot, and then just take his medicine and leave himself the cut. This cue ball's flying. I think he's going to have to, yeah, he's looking at the angle now. I think he's going to have to go side rail, top rail where he's pointing, right hand side rail, and then back down. Yeah. But he's going to have to play this well. He's going to have to judge it well. This could easily go wrong. He knows it. You can see that look on his face. You need to play this with side and almost like a kind of dragging action. Yeah, and he's got a flick. I mean, he's got a shot at it, which is one thing. This could have been much worse. He could have snookered himself. But to be honest, even if he hadn't got that flick, I think he'd overhit it. I think the white ball was coming right back down the bottom end of the table, and I think he might have been snookered. I mean, this is horrible, but he's got a shot. The pressure's on this shot, though. I mean, he needs this to draw level, and if he doesn't, then the table's at Chris's mercy. You're going to know before he knows whether it's in or not. What a pot. What a great pot. Single ball potting, that is just exemplary. Brilliant shot. Needed to control the cue ball too. Screwed it across to the side rail. Brilliant. If you haven't already done so, please could you share this stream across your social media, because this is one of the best games I've witnessed for a long time, and people need to see this. So any kind of time, any shares on Facebook, and also if you could take it off of YouTube. We're streaming across Facebook and YouTube. Now let's have a look at this break. He places the ball about 2 or 3 inches just to the left, always right on the bulk line, and he's going to transfer that power from his body through his arm, flush the ball, and he's just lost the cue ball. He's lost the cue ball, and that was just a little timing issue there. That was really about, I mean, he's trying to hit a point on the cue ball which is just above centre, and the trouble is when you're hitting it at that pace, if you hit it just slightly low at that point, then he's losing the cue ball. And that's the pocket that people go into most at this level. At a lower level, you tend to see them lose it into the middles. Yeah, so I was saying, if you get a chance to share the stream, it would be very much appreciated. There's a share button just at the bottom on Facebook and also on YouTube. There's a kind of right arrow. You can click on that and copy the link. Click on the subscribe button, click the notification bell so you'll know when we go live at any point. You'll get a notification. That's a big mistake there from Chris going in off. In the context of the game, I know it's only one frame, but the way these two are playing, every frame crucial. Always need to be cued well, these. He doesn't need to do anything at all with the cue ball. You can just stun it where it is now. He's showing you that he wants to leave that red into the right hand centre. He's just looking now at whether he wants to screw back and play it into the same pocket. But I think we'll just see him. I think we'll just see him stun it. Chose to come back. Felt more comfortable with that pace. Need a player who takes his time, and he's a considered player, but he's definitely not slow. He's still very quick around the table. This game going at a fast pace, 7 frames under our belt in a little over 30 minutes. That's a pretty good rate. In fact, it's faster than most of the games up there, with the exception of the obvious, which is Dan McVicker and Sean Chipperfield, who have played 9 frames. But bearing in mind, this match would have started a few minutes after the rest. 9 frames under their belt. Darren McVicker is flying. I fancied Darren today, I must admit. And that's no disrespect to Sean. I mean, Sean, I just said that I think he'd been priced at 7-4 and Chippy at 2-5. And I said to somebody, Darren, in fact, I didn't notice he was stood next to me. And I said to Ian Smith that Darren's never a 7-4 shot because either of those players could blow each other off the table. And Darren just looked across. He said, "Save your money, Nick." I said, "Behave yourself." There's one bloke who always puts himself down. It's Darren. Shane Thompson's just the 4-0 ahead against Gareth Hibbert. That one's gone wrong. So this now is a good chance for Chris, and this all came from that one poor positional shot. Shane Thompson's now 5-0 against Gaz Hibbert. Fortunate here to have another chance. Have another chance he does, but this one has gone, well, he was trusting the luck a little. He can pop this to middle, and should be able to just track that cue ball up the left-hand side of the table. He could even have a target point of the red that's over the pocket. If he runs up and pots that, he'll leave the black plum for the right centre. Okay, so he could actually hold it. Thought the angle was slightly more acute than that, so he could just hold it, playing at dead weight, and leave this simple black. And this one really almost got away from him.
Frame number 9, Chris Melling to break, trailing 5 frames to 3. Time running.
Seriously, lost the cue ball there, but still made a ball. He will not mind at all. He's made a ball, and Reds, well, either set looks good. Yellows don't particularly have an opener, so got the one red just on the right hand side rail, but he's got a couple of balls that he can use to land on it. It's a little bit tricky. He's just mapping it out. So he may elect here to move that red. I think that's probably what he's doing, is just playing for the gap between the two yellows and try and nudge that out, and he's going to leave himself on, he's guaranteed to be on one of the reds. He's come too high. I think he may have been targeting that yellow. The way he was cueing it looked like he was probably just targeting a full ball contact on that yellow, but just to try and hold something for one of the balls to middle. But anyway, he's still at the table. The clearance isn't simple. So he's got this one up the rail. Doesn't have anything to do with the cue ball. He can run it through an inch and have a straight red back down to opposite left corner. Well, it's not what he wanted. Definitely not what he wanted. That red doesn't go to middle, so he has to play to bottom corner. Had he run through an inch, I think he felt he had a kick, and that's why he's asked the ref to clean the ball. I think he wanted that just to run through an inch, and it's pretty much stopped dead. If you look at the line that the ball would be if it was in the opposite side of the marker, if he was dead straight playing from there, it would be simple. He could just run the cue ball through 4 or 5 inches and have a simple drop in on the black. But it's suddenly made a lot more difficult because you've got this wall of yellows across the table. So he's going to have to run across to the left-hand side rail. He's jacking up as well. Needs that to hold up. He's okay. He's okay. Another half a roll and he probably wouldn't have been able to see the potting angle. But there we go. That's another nice clearance and another tap on the knee from Neil Raybone, recognising a good clearance. 5 frames to 4, just one in it. And that was a really nice break and dish from Chris Melling. Sir Neil. Breaks, finds a red, elects to go yellows. First one probably overrun slightly, a little thinner than he would like. I think he can run into the one on the rail and move it. He needs to contact it full ball though. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That could have gone wrong. You want a full ball contact and then just leave the cue ball where it was. It actually got double kissed and just kicked down table a little, but he's still fine. Not an ideal layout, to say the least. All the balls go, they're all makeable, but connecting the dots is not quite so either. There's going to be quite a lot of movement of cue ball. And as soon as you start moving that cue ball around the table, that's when things can go wrong. He's okay. He's okay here. In fact, he's more than okay. He's just about perfect. He can either stun this in and play the one just below it, or he can run down to the one on the bottom rail. I expect him to take the one on the bottom rail next. A little closer than he wanted. And the reason he would have wanted to take this one next is because it's easier to get onto the red at the top of the table from the one that's off of the cushion than it is from the one that's on the cushion. He's missed it. He has missed it. So, it's just a little closer than he wanted to be, and he had to punch it and get the cue ball out. He's not left it simple. He's missed that to top knuckle and left Neil plumb. Didn't expect him to miss that. He was thinking ahead, trying to plan out how what he does with these two reds at the bottom of the table. So I think he was trying to leave himself an angle. I say left Neil plumb. It's a little bit hampered, but it'll be fine. So he's using that unusual ferrule. Most people use a metal ferrule. That looks like it's a carbon fibre ferrule, is it? They tend to use the black carbon fibre ferrules when on break cues. It looks a little darker. I may be mistaken. It may be metal. No. When George is back, we'll see if we can get a bit of a close up of that one. I think it looks like carbon, doesn't it? It might just be a black tip. I think possibly it's because a lot of the tips now, so a lot of these Taram tips are black, so it could just be a black tip with a metal ferrule. Anyway, it's a 2-frame lead. Chris had a chance there, and that 2 frames of daylight. Looking big. Sean Chipperfield's on the march. He's on the comeback. Craig Marsh. Wow. He had a big night last night. Enjoyed himself, had a few beers. But it's not affected him in the slightest. He's currently 8-2 ahead. A beast of a man. Jimmy Croxton 6-1 against Jez Graham. Now Dan McVicker, Sean Chipperfield locked together at 7s. Shane Thompson 6-1 against Gareth Hibbert.
Melling to break, trailing 6 frames to 4. Time running.
What a break that was. I mean, he's gone dry, but if you notice, the cue ball did exactly what I mentioned earlier. It's hit the front, come back off the front, and just stop dead in the middle of the table. And look at that split, just scattered to the winds. The Reds look okay, and neither set are particularly good. That's only, this Chris is only saving grace here. He might be able to get out one of the bad ones. No, I think he tried to. Maybe. No, maybe not. Maybe doing him a disservice there. I thought he just tried to nudge out the one that's by the yellow, but I don't actually think he needs to. I think he has run down to this end of the table because I believe that red pots to middle. And if he can take that out, it pretty much opens up the whole frame. Yeah, it does go to middle. What does it connect with? That's the only thing. I mean, there are balls at the top of the table near pockets, but there's a lot of traffic. Nailed it. Great pot. What's he on? Oh. How'd you like this one? I can only see one ball, and it's pretty ugly. What a pot that was. As I say, it was look at this. That's just so tough. Just slightly off straight. Perfect. And now just a simple stun to leave a straight black. Looking good now, Neil. Neil is breaking in frame number 12. Loses the cue ball. And this is a chance that Chris needs to get himself back into the game. Lost it, just didn't time it. Hit the side of the front ball, lost it to the side rail, and lost it in the top right pocket. Yellow's not easy here. He's got the two on the left side rail. You're going to see some action on this cue ball. The right hand yellow of the two passes to left centre, but yeah, knew he couldn't do much with it, so just try and play a little safety. It's a clever shot, but I think the red's just come away. I think Neil can clip this in. It's a decent attempt. If he pushes that up onto the top rail, then Neil has no shot. Just depends if he can clip this red, which I believe he can. Yeah, you can see from that angle it's fairly flies in. Just caught the jaw. But it's almost got a free go at this because the yellows are still pretty horrible where they are. But you expect Neil to clear from here. And that full frame lead at 8-4. Is there a way back for Chris? I know a lot of people have backed Neil for this event. It's grabbing that value at 22-1. He looks decent, doesn't he? just solid, without any kind of flair whatsoever, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, because you tend to only really need the flair when you're in trouble. He's just quietly going about his business. He's got the flare shots if he needs them, but he's just keeps it so simple. A little low on this. I think the natural angle is probably in off, so he's going to have to dig down into it, which means the cue ball's going to be going up table. Yeah, you can see he's digging down into it. I think he's going to come around 2 cushions, possibly 3. Wow, that was going to track so close to that left middle bag. And just that little flick on the yellow, and this is again just a little bit tricky. It's similar to the last one. You've just got to pick your point and commit. Such a good potter. 8 frames to 4. Rueful from Chris in the background, but not a lot he's been able to do. There's been a couple of mistakes, and his break's kind of deserted him. And he'll be stoic in this situation. He knows he can just take it 1 frame at a time, take his chances, play his best. But he'll need Neil to make mistakes from here. It's 8 frames to 4.
Break number 13, Chris Melling's break, trailing 8 frames to 4. Time running.
Black ball close to that top right pocket, and his break has very much deserted him. Something that was working so much for him yesterday has just dried up, and had his break worked, this match would have a very different complexion. I'm not saying he'd be ahead, but it would be very much closer. I reckon probably 1 frame in it, maybe even all square. So he's going to have to go reds because of the 2 yellows adjacent to the black. He's going to have to go in off the black here. So, yeah, I was going to say he needs to hit it with a bit of pace to make sure he gets the black out. Didn't want the black going in behind the yellows. And I think that this is pretty much plumb. And very shortly, it's going to be 9 frames to 4. Because these are drop-ins. Each one of the balls links to the next. No traffic in the way because the yellows are towards the cushions. So scores on the doors. Clint Hansen is 6 frames to 4 up. Adam Davis and Steve Petty are 5 frames each. Craig Waddingham 6-4 against Phil Harrison. Still got that lead. Shane Thompson 8 frames to 2 now against Gaz Hibbert. Darren McVicker 8 each with Sean Chipperfield. They're still trading blows. Craig Marsh is on the hill against Dave Fernandez. And Jimmy Croxton 8-2 against Jez Graham. Run through a couple of inches. Red to top left. And the black at his mercy. Nine four.
Frame number 14, Neil Raybone to break, leading 9 frames to 4, time running. Extension called.
So a similar pot to the one he had a moment ago, a couple of frames ago from Neil. Missing that one. Chris with a little sniff to get back into it. Has he snookered himself, or can he get past that red? Oh, he can get to it, but what's next? Yeah, he was trying to get on the one through the gap, but if he pots this, he's going to have to come around the world. Check side on the ball, checking back through. Again, don't think this is the one he's played, but he'll take it. because it's absolutely fine. No, it's gone now. He's nowhere close to where he was yesterday, and I think this is probably just simply down to his brakes. The brakes have killed him, and it's kind of got in his head a little bit. Calls the extension again, just really using that extra time to work out his pattern. Work out, I mean, so basically what he's doing here is he's imagining that there was a diamond on the table. In the same way you get the studs, the diamond studs on the American pool tables. He splits up each cushion and he's working out the exact angle that he needs to play if there were a diamond. He gave us a little sort of private class on it yesterday, but it's very complex. But it's basically just down to maths, and what a great shot. Tap on the table. And you can tell that he's absolutely played that at a pace to either go in or just cover the pocket. Yeah, you kind of feel that a moment ago, Chris, when he had that pot to the bottom left, he just rushed it a little, and had he taken more time over it, this frame would have been done by now. So again, you'll see Chris targeting the ball, working out the angles. Taking a measurement from the middle pocket, and he literally just doesn't miss getting out of snookers. Well, that must have been frozen. Of course, you have to hit a cushion after making contact, and the referee must have looked at that previously and realised it was frozen. And even so, the fact that it's ball in hand is kind of irrelevant, because Neil has barely moved it, because he would have been playing this red off the yellow to open the pocket up. Very astute, very aware from the referee there. He'd obviously had a look at it. Two matches are already over. Damn, Vicar is through. Craig Marsh is through. Jimmy Croxton's 9-2 ahead. Shane Thompson's 8-3 ahead. Craig Waddingham's 8-4 ahead. Steve Petty and Adam Davis 6 each. The bookie had that as the closest game at 10-11 either side. And isn't it ever? Clint Jansen 6-5 up against Mark Boyle. I did say earlier that Darren McVicker was never a 7-4 shot against Sean Chipperfield. Just simply because either one of those players, when they're on song, can blow the other away. Just this black to go on the hill at 10 frames to 4, and then you feel that it is just a question of time. Neil Raybone showing his class. Phil Harrison is 8 frames to 4 down to Craig Waddingham. I had a quick chat with Phil just before the action got underway. Always there to say hello, with a big smile on his face. Jimmy Croxton now through against Jez Graham, 11 frames to 2. Shane Thompson told me he was going to win this weekend. You would not put it past him. Changing up his break, put a lot more into that. You saw his back leg kick up, getting loads more action. You saw the whole body go into that one, so much more power. And that was a little bit of frustration at all the dry breaks he's had. Look how it's come out. Don't write him off quite yet. There's a player who could reel off 7 frames in a row. It's Chris Melling. Forty seconds later. And it's 10-5. The deficit is 5 frames. Neil Raybone is breaking in frame 16. Let's just take another look at Chris's last break when he generates. We've got a different replay. Sorry. We'll try again. Here we go. So look at that cue ball, and that cue ball has got much more spin on it that time, and that's just because of the extra power that he's put into it. So you see the cue ball hit the front of the pack, bounce back off the pack, and that front spin just accelerates it and arcs it round. Now, under control, that arc turns into the ball just stopping and planting itself. But when he's put so much more power into the break, there's a lot more action with the cue ball. Anyway, it's Neil. He's broken really well. He's broken well all game. And, well, this one's all over. One problem ball on yellows on the left side rail, which he can double. or if he chooses to, he can try and move it. I feel that these are as good as gone. That one ball is his only challenge. Brilliant opening shot. And as you can see, right from the off, that problem ball we talk about so often, that problem area, they're attacking it from their first shot, and suddenly the frame has a whole different complexion on it. And this one's going to be game over. Nothing Chris can do but sit and watch and hope for some kind of kick or miscue. One thing that we haven't seen hardly anything of this weekend, and that's kicks. Just have not featured. The amount of times that kicks will play a massive part. Of course, this cloth does have this anti-kick technology built into it, so I don't know how effective that is. But something's going right, because they just haven't featured. We have possibly one little kick earlier from Chris, but I'm not even sure that was a kick. And the other thing that we haven't seen any of this weekend, which seem to feature on a weekly basis on the pool pages, we've not seen any bounce outs. Not a single one. And those shots that, like Neil's just played there, those kind of hard stun shots into the middle, those are the ones that, if any ball's going to come out, is those. Brilliant performance from Neil. He was my pick before the event, and I see no reason not to stick with it. He is the informed player, and for me, he's the man to beat. After these matches conclude, there'll be 8 players left vying for this title. Chris Melling won't be one of them. He will be on his way back up the road. Unlucky to him, that really was only his break that's led him down. For Chris Melling, it's farewell. Another good showing from him. For Neil Raybone, he marches on with a real spring in his step into the final 8. We're going to try and catch Neil Raybone for a few words in the interview box. We'll speak to you soon. Neil, that was a fabulous performance from you. Give us your thoughts first of all.
Yeah, I was happy to play well. I knew I had to play well. Obviously, you know, Chris is a brilliant player, one of the best players ever. So I knew to have a good chance, I needed to play well.
Yeah, I mean, his breaks let him down a little bit there, didn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, we had quite a few dry breaks, to be honest, and I think that's what let me pull away in the match, really, because I think we were like 4 each, and I think the first 7 frames were off the break, but then he had a couple of dries, and you know, it let me get a bit of a lead on him.
I think I mentioned on commentary that I guess you watch that and it's just such a quiet, solid performance, and no one kind of looks at you and thinks, what a flair player, in the same way you would someone like Sheppy or Chris Melling. But I say that as a compliment because you just go about things so simply and make it look so easy and just quietly go about your game, but just get the job done.
Yeah, I just think it's, you know, different styles of play. Obviously, you know, you got Sheppy and, you know, Chris. Obviously, you know, they pull out, you know, really big shots all the time, and you know, they play with a lot of flair. Whereas, you know, myself, I just try and make it simple as I can, really, and you know, try and not make any silly mistakes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've been at the top of the game for the last couple of years now, #1 on the IPA circuit, and here you are, knocking on the door of the last 8. Is it going to be this one?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it'd be great to obviously, you know, win this event. Obviously, you know, Lee and Gareth are really good to me. You know, sponsor me and stuff. So it'd be good to go, you know, do well and win the event. And obviously, you know, we've got a lot of people here today. Obviously, supporting me as well, so it's good.
I mean, just touching on that, I mean, you're fairly local to this club, so you know the tables fairly well, you know the cloths fairly well. How does it feel when you come across to the arena? Is it different playing on that table than the others, or you seem to settle in quite quickly?
Yeah, it is a little bit different, but I personally prefer it, to be honest. I can get in my own little zone when I'm playing in the arena and like TV matches and stuff like that, whereas I can get a bit distracted sometimes playing in the other, you know, in the rest of the tables, really. Yeah. So I do prefer it because I can get into my own little zone and can just concentrate on the matter at hand, really. Yeah.
Well, I was asked before the event who my pick was. You were my pick for the tournament. I hope you go on and win it now.
Yeah, thanks. I'll try my best. Try my best. Thank you.
There we go. That's Neil Raybone. We'll be back with the action. There's another couple of tables still being streamed. We'll be back with the action in the final 8. We'll see you then.